Theirs not to reason why, theirs but to spam and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600 Russian bots.
Hello and welcome to the show. Colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark.
Oh, yes.
This week we debate: the Russians are coming. Well, as we've seen in the news recently, yes, more scandals with Russian spies. This time a poisoning matter. Well, the attempted killing of Sergei Skripal poses much challenges for the British intelligence, doesn't it? Yes. This was a man who'd been convicted for spying for Britain, who was pardoned, released, and then targeted to be killed on British soil. Now, who is guilty? Is it Vladimir Putin? Is it someone else? Is it Clergyman Pete? Oh, what is going on with the world? Clergyman Pete, tell me what is happening on our British streets. Are the Russians really infiltrating our society?
Well, the thing is, this idea of the Russians coming and being too clever for us goes back into the annals of history. I mean, if you take American society, their country started with them having a revolution against the British who ran the colonies, and their famous cry, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" And when there was no enemy in the British anymore, the Russians took their place. So, of course, I'm skipping a few things here. There was the famous film in the 1960s, 1966, in fact, called "The Russians Are Coming." The Russians are coming, and it's about the distrust between the British. It's actually the Russians off the British coast, not America, but it's an American film. And a Russian submarine hoves off the coast of Britain, and there's strong distrust among them, between them, and then it's a comedy, so everything turns out well, and they learn to love the Russians, and in fact escort them to safety so that they don't get killed by the RAF. Well, you know this idea of, however, that film was playing with, this idea that the Russians are not only after their own ends, but somehow infiltrating. And because these dashed foreigners are so very clever, they're outsmarting us, has made its way into our consciousness, such that you always have to check yourself whenever you hear a headline that could mean, in other words, the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. So I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, possibly. But, I mean, we do have a bit of history here, don't we, folks?
Yep.
And I know that the spies who are listening in, great listeners to our show at this moment of time, taking notes.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Let's go back to the 1950s, because, of course, there was the Cambridge spy ring, which was a ring of spies in the United Kingdom who passed information to the Soviet Union at the time during World War II, and then became very active during the 1950s. Now, at the time, it was believed that there were four members. The ring was Kim Philby, Donald Dewitt McLean, Guy Burgess, and of course Anthony Blunt. But then they've realised just a little bit later that there was actually a fifth member, who was John Cairncross. Now, of course, the point being is that this sort of really was such a big scandal of the day, and how dare they give information to the Russians or vice versa. But nevertheless, it did sort of set the tone a little bit. And you do wonder, with any situation, any society, where are the spies? Are they your colleagues? Are they your neighbours? I mean, how far does it actually really go? I mean, let's be honest. When we sort of think about Russia at this moment in time, it does have a bit of an influence on us, doesn't it, at the moment? And I'll give you a clue here. This is a little poem called "From Russia Without Love." Rush, rush, the Russians are coming. They're in the walls and in the plumbing. Hush, hush, they've bought our houses and football clubs, and they've infiltrated our government and local pubs. Brush, brush all the bewildered British citizens aside. They've hacked our systems and poisoned our pride. Flush, flush, the cyber spies from the internet. Every day is like playing Russian roulette. crush, crush. We're at the end of our tether. They've even given us tolerable weather. Gush, gush, the British haven't given up yet. The Queen was quoted as saying, "Niet." So, oh dear, goodness me. Has it really gone as far as the royal family? Well, who can tell? Whatever happened to the Tsars? Yes. Well, the Queen hasn't actually commented on this particular show yet, but I know that she's a great listener. So, Clergyman Pete,
Yes.
I would like to sort of get to the real nub of this. Is this just a media scam, or is it actually that the incident that we've seen with the recent issues in Salisbury? This is where the actual poisoning took place, incidentally, of Sergei Skripal and his daughter. Is it possible that maybe someone else is to blame, or maybe what we're starting to see is some unfolding evidence? Apparently, some of the chemicals that we used are so specific that there are only a certain amount of laboratories that actually produce the chemicals, one of which is in Moscow.
Yes. Well, certainly the pinch of salt idea that I was talking about does come to play here, and that if you were going to have a death that the Russians were involved in, it would be poisoning, wouldn't it? You could, it'd be some. There's the poison-tipped umbrella of years ago when someone was killed on the underground. But just because it seems too stereotypical doesn't mean it's not true, does it? So I think that there is an issue with what you might call the emeritus members of the old KGB spy people seeming to go around killing people, or maybe killing each other. And so I when I say that you have to take it with a pinch of salt, I don't mean that you completely dismiss it, but simply that you don't simply accept it. It's the other way around that I'm saying. That the Russians are involved in any sort of nefarious activity. Let me give you another example. You gave that example. Let me give you an example. There have been claims made in the mainstream media. Claims have been made that the Russians were responsible for the results of the Italian election, and retrospectively, they were saying, "Oh, they must have influenced Brexit as well. That's why we voted to leave." And of course, there's the classic case. The only reason that the hideous harridan Hillary Clinton didn't win against Donald Trump was because of Russian meddling, not because she had an absolutely awful campaign. It's public knowledge that she's a crook, and that she's eminently unlikable, not least because she attacked, not physically, but attacked verbally and legally those people who her husband had sexually abused. With all those things in mind, why would the Russians need to meddle? Just let her lose it by herself. So that's obviously pretty ludicrous. And of course, one of the main things about that is that, like everyone else, it's quite apparent looking at communications between different Russians, which are publicly available. They did believe that Trump couldn't win, like almost everyone else, apart from, of course, us on the Mark and Pete show. We did predict that he was going to win. I like to repeat that every now and then so that people remember that we are at least some way to be incredible. But yes, the Russians are behind everything. In a way, as I say, is a problem. But I do, regular listeners will know that this happens quite often. I do have a theory.
Here we go, folks.
Yes, I do have a theory of what the Russians are actually up to. This is it. Things like poisoning. Yes, I'm sure that they do have this level of control they like to exert over people who are meant to be loyal to them. And so if you go rogue, then you're going to be killed. I think that's perfectly feasible. I've Although I would say I have no problem with it. I don't like it, but I can see I have no problem with the fact that it being true. That Putin knows that that's how they operate. It would be naive to think otherwise, because of course he was very high up in the KGB. He was he actually leader of the KGB?
I think he was.
Yes, he
maybe
was.
at one point. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
he was before he went into politics, and of course the elections of which are coming up soon for him. Well, they're not real elections, so he's in charge of everything. He was in charge of the Secret Service when it was under someone else, and now he's in complete charge of it. So he knows, I would say. I believe from the way you see things operating, the way you see Putin operating, you wouldn't run things that way if Putin didn't like it.
Yes.
I think that. Yeah. So I can see that all that is true, and that he would try and meddle and try and cause a bit of confusion in particularly American politics. Yes, that's absolutely true. And I, however, think that they wanted Hillary Clinton to win because she was easy to control. Whereas Trump, one of his faults is also his strength in that he's pretty unpredictable. And so they wouldn't have liked it because, how do you control someone? You don't know what he's going to do. So,
No.
yeah. So,
and we still don't.
Yeah, so there's good and there's bad in that, as we pointed out. When he does good things, we should call it out, and when he does bad things, and we've done both on this show. But what I see is the intellectual underpinning of the way that Russia is organized is based on Marxism, which is developed, into different forms of communism. But it traces back to Marx, who wrote his theories of how the people needed to basically take property off the rich people who were running businesses and owned everything, take it back to themselves, then they would run the show. No, I mean that's a brief summary. Now he wrote that, of course. Marx himself wrote that, sitting in the British Library, enjoying the benefits of capitalism whilst writing the theory of communism. There is a bit of irony there. Now, when that didn't work, when Russia failed to take over the world, you could trace back. There were published articles, books even about this, of how they should undermine the West. And there is there's a report of a Russian spy being interviewed. I say interviewed, being interrogated, and he gives answers to their strategy, which is what has become now the theory of cultural Marxism. That is to say, instead of pitting the workers against the owners, you pit different classes of people against each other: blacks against whites, women against men, homosexuals against straight people. What's also known as intersexual politics. This was pushed with a deliberate strategy of placing left-wing communist professors in universities across the West, especially in America. And this has worked beyond their wildest dreams. So you get people saying, oh no, the Russians are trying to do that. Whereas the Russian way of operating, the socialist verging on communist way of operating, has taken over people. The government, the main points being the government has to be strong. You have to rely on the government to help you, and you have to hate the people who you're told to hate. And these things work against us, you and I, Mark, in that we are the absolute pinnacle of the hate pyramid. We are straight, white, and male, and also Christian. So all those together, we are really the people who are hated just simply because they believe that we run everything.
Well,
which is true, but that's
I'd also like to mention about other sources which have vented their anger, and of course one notable individual known on the international stage, admired and loved by all, is Boris Johnson.
Yes,
who is of course a
great
foreign
man.
minister. Great man. Yes, absolutely, respected by somebody somewhere.
Yes, his mum.
Anyway. He made this bold claim, slightly ambiguous, that come the World Cup, which of course is due to take place in Russia this year, has said that maybe that we may have to take some stance on this and our attendance. Now, of course, Theresa May had to immediately step in and say what he meant was.
Yes.
To say, Boris, you stupid boy, which is that actually there may not be any ministerial representation. So, yes, the football team will be there. Well, I say they'll be there, not necessarily all in the right place at the right time, and probably still lose.
Yes.
But nevertheless, the fact is that if you think about what ministers are saying, this type of rhetoric is not very helpful, is it?
No.
I mean, I know that Boris Johnson is guilty of many ill-chosen words, but we really could do without that because we don't know yet. This is the key. We don't really know what's actually happened in this poisoning.
No.
I think we should just make that really clear because I know that this propaganda that keeps coming through in all of this storyline, I think we should say that really Russia has actually contributed a great deal to the world.
Yes.
I was sort of going to mention this here because if you look at the timeline of innovations that have come from Russia, it's rather impressive. I'll just give you a simple example here. It goes from anything from airliners, transformers, radio receivers, satellites. It goes into things such as musical instruments, such as balalaikas, even scientific discoveries, which cover things like the periodic law, vitamins, stem cells, viruses, etc. Maybe we should probably sort of praise some of the good things that have come out of Russia. Maybe somebody sort of missed that storyline somewhere along the way. What was your thoughts there?
So I think that what I think is that yes, Russia has contributed a lot in that way. Yes, it's got a history, in fact, of great intellectuals as well as great scientists and
chess champions.
But also religiously, it's contributed a lot. The Orthodox Church. It's yes, there is the Greek Orthodox Church, but the one that has really the part of the Orthodox Church that has really kept it alive in recent years. Has been Russia, just over the past, say, 20 years. We see them gaining more of a foothold in national affairs. Now, a lot was made recently, last year, when under Putin, Russia enacted a law restricting missionary activity. Now, this, however, was not intended to stop the Orthodox Church or to restrict it. It was to stop foreign missionaries coming in and converting people. Which it's often misunderstood. Having done evangelistic missionary work myself, I understand what it's like for another country to be suspicious because I've been interviewed by people in the country that I went to as a missionary, just testing me out to see my purpose to go there, and my purpose, of course, was simply to help the other people, and if people converted to Christianity, not to take their loyalty away from their country. But of course, that can be the perception. So, but yes, certainly keeping the Orthodox faith alive, which I think that the Orthodox part of the church, the Orthodox Christians, have really kept alive the belief in the power of the Holy Spirit when that was diminished in the Western Church. Thankfully, it's been reawakened, but they really kept that at the heart of theology. And they have a lot to offer still in terms of theology and in their the beauty of their liturgy, which is full on. Let me tell you, if you go to a Russian Orthodox church, you can't breathe for the incense. They really go for it. So they have a lot to contribute in that way, and of course artistically as well.
Exactly.
They are possible.
The Bolshoi ballet.
Yes, same to you. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. There's so much that they have to offer in art. Certainly, when you think of European art, a lot of it is actually Russian. So, yeah, they are a great nation, and I would say, in terms of social responsibility, they have been far more sensible than other countries. Take, for example, the law to do with homosexuality much pilloried by people in the West, in the mainstream media. Not by us on this show, of course, but we take, I think, a similar view to them. They were simply passed a law saying you couldn't use propaganda to spread. To teach people about homosexuality to underage people. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You should stop doing it in this country as well. It wasn't in any way this particular law that was decried against being homosexual, as though you could stop people being homosexual by making it illegal. It's like I'm going to make guns illegal, that make them disappear. It doesn't work like that, does it? So Russia not only does it have all the things that you mentioned in terms of scientific discovery, it has a whole culture that we should respect. And yes, they are, of course, rivals to the West and have historically been. Now, why do we want that to continue, though? Let's not have that continuing. Let's move towards free trade with Russia and get the people trading with each other. Diminish the role of governments, which are always at each other's throat. Well, they're meant to be. Yep. They have to fight for their team, don't they? I understand why that's the case. Yep. But if you get people talking to each other and then trading with each other, so you have to have mutual trust because you've got contracts to uphold, then I think we're going to see a breaking down of these barriers, and maybe the Cold War will finally thaw out.
Well, indeed, and that's a very good point, because from a commercial point of view, many, many businesses throughout Europe and, in fact, the rest of the world are actually suffering as a result of government embargoes because they can't trade with Russia. Yeah. Now, we know the reasons why. We've covered upon a number of them, but I agree that now is the time to perhaps sort of think about it in a different way. Well, what do you think, listeners? I mean, do you have a particular view on this? I mean, do you believe that the Russians are really behind the poisoning incidents that we've seen in Salisbury in the United Kingdom? Maybe. Or maybe there's something else going on that we don't really know about. Well, Vladimir Putin, please, we look forward to your response. I know you listen to the show a lot. Yes. So why not log on to markandpete.com and let us know your thoughts. Well, thanks for joining the show today, and join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.
До свидания, comrade.